And then also too, man, it's just like, so what? Like, what does anybody's opinion have to do with you or of me?
That's a great question. I wish there's probably some science out there to answer that.
You're liking that one, huh?
I don't know if I like it or don't like it.
You don't?
Just like, hmm.
But I think this goes back to what I was like talking to you about was like like personally like I'm trying to not like just interject data into another person when I'm having a conversation with them. Like I don't need to always have something to add to what you
Mhm.
just said. I talked about that with like Elizabeth. It's like sometimes you just want to be heard, even if it's like I don't know whatever it is. And I told you like I think the difficulty for me is that in hearing you, I'm hearing myself because it's
Mhm.
like, dude, it literally feels like you and I are like living the same life, like going backwards, and like we're like in this interjecting point, and then we're gonna like split off and go.
You're trying to come back from your future self to tell your past self, like, hey man, I know some stuff. I can help you. I can give you a roadmap. You don't have to deal with this, like, because I've already been there.
Yeah, yeah, and like that's like kind of what I mean. You're doing it right now. You're gonna go get a fourplex.
Mm-hmm.
I already have a fourplex, but I'm gonna come to you in the exact opposite like frame when
Mm-hmm.
I need help. I will come to you, especially in terms of relationships. I'm gonna be like, hey man, how did you know? Like,
Yeah.
I want those signs. Those
Well, there's a lot of science behind it.
hit me with it, bro.
I don't know actually. What I was gonna say though is I've listened to an audiobook, "Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus." You ever
Yeah,
heard of that?
I've heard the nursery rhyme. Like
Well, in the audiobook, basically talk about how men are Martians, women are Venetians, and they talk a lot about how
hmm,
women, the feminine essence versus the masculine essence, like the females, when they talk about a problem, they want it to just be heard. They don't need a solution.
hmm,
Um, when a man talks about a problem, we assume we're talking about it because we want a solution.
hmm,
But what a lot of people don't realize is you have feminine essence about you, and whoever you end up marrying as a female will still have masculine essence about them. So even though you can complain about something, and some days you might want a solution, but some days you might just simply want to be heard and like be validated in where you are with that process. So I say all that just to say that humans are complex. You never know if they just want a solution or if they just want you to listen. And if you just get it wrong, they're gonna wait 10 minutes and be like, "You never listen to me, Mark. You never listen to me."
what prompted you to read that book?
Well, I got married recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently men and women think differently. Um, so we've been talking about how science can either make your thoughts kind of feel invalidated,
hmm
or they can make them feel reinforced. So not that this book is science, but it's a lot of philosophy on marriage and relationships. And I liked it a lot because it went through numerous examples of how a girl saying, your hair's kind of getting long. A man can easily hear, wow, your hair's getting shaggy. Like, why don't you take care of yourself? But a woman is just like noticing, like, wow, your hair's long, you know? Um, and it also talks about how by default, let's say you're dating a girl named Sarah Ann. She doesn't have to have a name, but she has a name, Sarah Ann.
I'll go Sarah Ann.
And you guys are hanging out this evening, and she's just like, Mark, this coworker of mine is so inconsiderate. She talks so loud. She's always talking about fill in the blank. And initially, without thinking about it, you go, why don't you just walk away from her? Why are you standing there listening to her? You know, her husband probably doesn't, treat her the right way or love her enough. But really, what Sarah wants is for you to just listen to her and go, oh man, they want to just be validated, heard where they are.
Mm, that's money. Is that
Yeah.
something that you've been learning to do? Did you feel like that's something that you needed to learn to do?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
a fixer. Heidi will tell you I'm a fixer.
Yeah, I know you
I
are.
don't know if you notice I'm a fixer. If you, like, if I walked in your house and you're like, by the way, man, like, the flooring over here is like cracking, naturally I'm going to be like, well, hey, man, I floored my house. Like, I think what you could do is, fill in the blank. But
Yeah. I mean, that's why I like presented like the concrete slab thing to you because I
yeah,
was like, what is a perfect thing that I know Dustin particularly
mm,
I could present him with, and he'd probably have some inkling of how
yeah.
to fix my problem,
Pretty much if
right?
it's broke, I'm like, well, I don't know how to fix it. But think maybe this is just me, but even if I don't know, I'm gonna be like, I don't know, but and then I'm gonna start like throwing ideas at you, right? I'm like, it could be like, hey, my lawnmower won't start. I know nothing about lawnmowers, but I'm gonna be like, I know nothing about lawnmowers, man. But maybe if you put some new gas in it or sprayed some ether in the carburetor, probably doesn't
Right.
have a carburetor. But my point is, men are constantly
Of that mindset.
fixers. There's a
Yeah.
problem, they want to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the issue is, at least according to this book, and probably if you reflect on like interactions with women, we want to constantly fix their problems. They just want them to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
But when you flip that around and women try to fix your problems, when women are like men, you get offended because, like, to some extent, you feel emasculated. Like, do they not trust that I can solve this on my own? Why are they giving
Mm.
me advice? They must have thought that my ideas and the way I was dealing with it was insufficient.
Mm.
But women on Venus, the Venetians in this book, you know, from a woman's planet, when they give advice, unsolicited advice is just like welcome and helpful, and women love that. Like, thank you for trying to help. Like, I will take all the help I can get. On Mars, if you give unsolicited advice, it's like, hey, I see you're building this shed over here, but why don't you build it over here?
But the
And
conflict arises. Sorry, I'm gonna interject here. The conflict arises is when the Martians try to speak Venetian, and then when the
exactly.
Venetians try to speak Martian. That is the ever uh like ever occurring problem, and it's something that I too have been like working on. Man, I'm trying very very hard to speak fluent Venetian. Um, and like a case in point being to like what you were saying is like uh when I was digging out that 12 by 12, right? Like it was me and my boy Davin, and we're fucking like I got the pressure washer out there, like uprooting fucking grass, like
it's one way to do it.
raking it, dude. You know what I mean? Like we're just trying to clear out as much grass from that as possible. Obviously, the grass is like a weed and it grows back like that. Um, but in the midst of it, like while I'm trying to solve this problem, my mom like stopped by, and she stops by and like she comes in and she's just like, where the fuck's my son? And then she finds me in the backyard doing that
Mark, what are
project.
you doing?
And she's like, no, she's like, she knows what I'm doing. She knows that this is my project that I'm working on. And she goes, just make sure it's level. And I'm like, bro, it set me off, bro. I was like, what the fuck do you think I'm doing? You think I'm just digging this whole thing up just to like not make sure it's level? But like my mom wasn't like trying to be like, hey dumbass, make sure it's leveled. My mom was just like saying like, yeah, hey, I don't forget this part of it's like it's not it's unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
But in Martian, like I interpreted that, I'm just like, what do you think I'm doing?
It
Right?
makes you re-question your whole life. Like, does my mom not trust that
Think
I
that I
like
can't do
knew
this
how to
correctly.
put clean underwear on this morning?
Yeah.
She didn't pack my lunch. Will I eat?
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And I think in a relationship, now a marriage, it's hard to hear little things like. So here's an example. Like Heidi and I went on it was going to be a backpack trip, and then we decided just to like overnight backpack. We decided just to go on a hike um, somewhere in Hatcher's Pass, and we were like, oh, we'll pack our mountain house, we'll eat out there, whatever. So I'm grabbing all these snacks, and she's like, wow, that's a lot of snacks. And long story short, we get out there, and we're like started down the trail, and somehow it came up that I didn't bring my mountain house. She's like, oh, I thought we were gonna eat at the end of the trail, and I'm like, oh, I got distracted packing snacks, make sure we had water, grabbing the gun, uh, and she, I tried to be polite. I'm like, why didn't you ask me if I had my mountain house? She said, well, you know, I can't ask you, did you remember your toothbrush, or
Oh
don't
my
forget to
God.
pack XYZ because I'm Martian and it's unsolicited.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, well, I was like, here's, this is our conversation. Like, is it better to have been like, hey, did you pack your mountain house? And me be like, yeah, I've got it. Like, and be a little bit like, do you not trust me? Or is it more disappointing to now we're not eating our dinner at the end of this little hike? You know, you can't have it both. You can't never be second guessed or checked by your female, but also never make a mistake, because four eyes are better than two, right?
Yeah.
She's noticing like, oh, like, did you, your mom, she's like, oh, Mark's working hard, but just make sure you keep it level, babe.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
but you hear,
Like, hey,
don't forget to
dumbass.
change your underwear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, it's interesting that you say that, because the second part of that is one is establishing that you're both of the understanding that you're both trying to learn this other person's language. Um, and I think it's at varying levels. Like, I know that there's people who can like speak the other language very well, and they use that to their advantage, and whether that means it's to be successful in a single relationship or to be successful in multiple relationships,
Mm-hmm.
or however they use that is up to them. So one, it's understanding, hey, I'm trying to learn your language, you're trying to learn my language, are we on the same page with that? And then two, it's the boundaries. So I'm taking this time to learn your language,
Mm-hmm.
and you're taking this time to learn my language. Let me help you by teaching you the slang that I go by, right? And we do this in dating. It's when you start to pick up your partner's lingo, your partner's habits, your partner's mannerisms. That's them assimilating to your boundaries and your habits and your lifestyle. And so they start to speak your language, right? And you start to speak their language in a sense, right? So like, and I've noticed it as I've like entered the dating market. I've noticed it as I've entered the dating market
You
as,
single ladies.
well, I'm not advertising myself to anybody on this podcast, but I've noticed it in like stuff that I've picked up from other relationships that I now carry forward, because it's like, oh, I really like that thing, or I really like this thing, or it's changed the way I do things. And the more that I start to see it, I start to see other people too. I'm like, that's not a trait that you came up with. Like, that's a trait you've adapted from somebody else, or that's a trait that you have from, whatever. I start maybe thinking, am I getting too into the weeds with it all? But I think that's the problem with like modern like dating. And I don't want to talk too much about it, because it also is kind of like an annoying subject for me at the moment. But I'm curious as to like what you're, as being in a new marriage, having been with Heidi for this like what past couple of years, like what is your understanding like of your boundaries, of your learning each other's language, of you picking up each other's slang and lingo?
Well, as we already discussed, I'm a fixer.
Yeah.
So, it could be Heidi comes home from work and she's, interacted with the public for 8 hours, working at a coffee shop. It's like, maybe her energy is kind of drained. Um, so it's hard not to kind of go, okay, her energy's drained, problem, assimilate it, calculate, like, solution. So it's kind of two parts. Like, I don't have to be responsible for how she feels or doesn't feel. But the biggest thing I found is, and it feels like a cop out, is that generally when she has problems, she's not hoping that I can help her with a solution. She just wants me to verbally and or physically, like, give her a hug and, like, go, oh man, that sounds tough. I'm sorry you're having to deal with that. And it's been really hard, even, on Mars, if you tell me, like, hey man, like, my roof's leaking, it's really hard to just hug you and say, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry your roof's leaking.
Roof's leaking.
So sorry,
bro, please help me fix it.
I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this.
Yeah.
And you're such a good person. You shouldn't have to deal with it. But I'm not. Let me clarify. I'm not saying that women are like that.
No. But it's a different language. Yeah.
And it's not even they don't want solutions, but they need to feel supported and validated where they are before they're willing to even entertain the thought of a solution. And by giving them the validation and, like, meeting them where they are, you'll also find that half the time the solution you're going to offer, they didn't need a solution. They just wanted understanding.
Yeah.
And my mind frequently goes to, here's a problem. I start hitting her with solutions before she even felt like I heard her problem, or, I think it's easy for me to start hitting her with solutions and, well, why don't you try this? Or versus, again, it feels like a cop out just to go, I'm really sorry you're having to deal with that, or you're going through that. Because I am a fixer. I want to help people. I want to try to serve people, especially the people who are close to me. But less is more. Charmin Ultra, give them a hug. You don't have to give them a list of things that they could do to fix themselves. Because then also that, it's like, you didn't hear that they had a problem. You start telling them what they can do and how, why don't you just do this? Like, it's so simple. You're minimizing their problem. You're not validating their problem. And you're trying to tell them how to fix their life instead of just, like, meeting them where they are and, verbally and physically give them a hug.
Yeah.
It seems so simple. It seems so simple that you're like, that couldn't work.
No, it does. It does, bro. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, man. I love hearing you say that because it has been one of the biggest realizations for me personally. I'm like, dude, we were just talking about this earlier, right? It's just like, you don't need the Bic. If you're fucking with the Flint, you're fucking with the Flint. And I just got to be happy for you to be even fucking with fire in the first place.
Yeah.
You know? Dude, I don't know, man. It's such a deep, like, it goes so deeper than that. And to me, I'm just fascinated by the fact that, like, you and we don't spend a lot of time together. We don't spend, like, all this time. We used to hang out a lot, I think, like, a lot of people in my life, I had periods of times where I'm like, fuck, we hung out a lot, or we talked a lot, but we never had, like, a conversation like this. We never had a conversation where we, like, broke down the layers and really understood, like, how my mind works. How does your mind work?
Yeah, we just did side-by-side play, go rock climbing, fishing.
And it was just, a lot of it was just kind of like,
somebody had to belay me.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, like, it's a lot of it is it's like acknowledged without saying it. And so I think, looking back on it, if I was to get really like introspective about like, dang, this thing's like in my neck. If
You
I
got
was
a
to
big
get
neck.
really,
Said you got a big neck.
if I was to get really introspective about it, I would say I guess that's what this is. This podcast is me going back and just being like, hey man, like I know whatever part of life where we met, like
Mm.
just wanted to see, like, are you thinking how I'm thinking? Like, are you thinking? Were we thinking the same thing? And we are thinking the same thing. It's awesome to know that. To hear you like read this book, and this book I've never even like heard of, but I've
Mm.
like studied this exact like concept that you're talking about, and it's just maybe somebody else read the book and they just had a different way of
Yeah.
perceiving it or translating it, right? And that's what you were talking about. It's all
Mm.
perspectives, right? If you're starting a fire with your flint and I'm starting a fire with my Bic, what difference does it make if the
Yeah.
fire's fucking started? By the way, that's probably one of the most insulting gifts I ever got was the fucking you gave me the box of fire starters because of the fucking willow wall thing.
Well, I don't. So I bought you that. I don't think it was I didn't mean for it to be a
It
slight. It was
wasn't
genuinely like, I'm trying to get some last minute Christmas gifts here. Like, here's a couple spoons. We can let mailman and Lisa like. I think I had you guys like play some. I know I had them like, who can unwrap this the quickest, and whoever unwrapped it, like I gave them a some other little
so we did
speaker or
that at
something.
Mailman's house, yeah,
So I
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was like, okay, mailman's like likes to play games and be festive. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wrap these two plastic spoons up like for backpacking sport, spoon and a fork.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like wrapped them in paper and taped them, and I was like, all right, whoever can unwrap this quickest. So my point is, I was at Walmart, like over here in the campus section. I'm like, okay, I don't want to buy stickers or candles. Like, what can I buy that's practical? And I was like, well, fire starter. That takes up that help fill the whatever I needed to get you. So in my mind, I wasn't like, that one time we couldn't. To be fair, you did start a fire, so
I did.
I think you're maybe
I did.
did you feel insecure that it took you longer than you wanted it to? Okay, all right.
That's like when I took it, I was like, man, whatever, bro. I got the fire started. But you know what? I wound up using the shit out of those
Yeah,
books. I was like,
good.
man, this is way better than sitting there. I was sitting there. We were out there in the middle of the fucking wind tunnel in Willow Wall Lakes, and I'm like,
Yeah,
those little Kindle things are so much better. Every time I lit them, though, I was like, fuck. Oh,
back to
man.
the Mars and Venusian like concept though. What it really comes down to is your. I won't say love languages because that gets into like different types of love language, and to be honest, those are a little confusing to me. Just to be honest.
Hmm.
But if you look at it even simpler, like you're trying to show that you love them, whether it's your friend, your buddy, your coworker, your spouse, they have a problem, and your way to show them you love them as a man is usually like to try to help them with their problem, your perceived problem they have. But women feel that love stronger if you can just meet them where they are,
Yeah.
love them where they're at, validate where they're at, you know.
Yeah. It's hard, man. And like, that's one of the biggest hurdles, bro, is just like getting people to understand, like being able to fucking just find a median where you guys can both communicate
Mm.
at. I don't know. I think the more effort I put into it, the more it becomes vain, which is why this is why I said earlier, like, I don't really want to talk about it anymore. And the reason I don't want to talk about it anymore is because it feels like it's efforts in vain at this point. Um, and there's, um, there's just more pressing stuff to deal with in my life. Like and stuff that I think is more important, like I really neglected my like physical, like I didn't really neglect it because I've been doing jiu-jitsu for the last 4 years, and that's a combat sport. It's a sport.
Mm.
I have to be full body involved in that. But I did neglect myself. Like I was using the sport in a way to kind of like yeah, I was getting better. I was getting, obviously I'm getting promoted. I'm contending for my purple belt. Like these are progressionary things that are happening. But to me, the whole premise of me even going to jujitsu was just to be like, I'm doing this to just be like one thing in my life that I could say I proved myself in, right? And I was like neglecting my body hard. Like I would just like go in there, get hurt, and I would like not recover. I would like not do the right recovery. I would not do the right thing, like to treat my body right. And like, and why? Like, what was I affording the time to instead of recovering my body? A relationship, a relationship that probably never had like fruitfulness. Regardless of whether the relationship was good or bad, but like what else was I doing with that time? Video games, a relationship, a job, right? Like how important were those things in my life at the time, right? And what were those things doing for me in my life at the time? And I'm at a point now in my life where it's like the healthiest thing for me to do is to like take care of my body, because I don't want to be a black belt that can't roll, right? I don't want to be a husband who can't like hug his wife. I don't
Well,
want
you
to
also
be
don't want to come to jiu-jitsu and feel like that's the only thing that you're
worth.
accomplishing.
That's my only thing, right? So it's like I'm learning to like balance this whole thing out, right? Like I don't want to just like be like, I don't want to be a purple belt. That's not what I want, right? Like I just want to be Mark, and I want to enjoy jiu-jitsu. I don't want to be the best fucking like player or like boyfriend. I don't want that. I just want to be somebody's like I just want to be Mark to somebody that they really like. I don't have to be the fucking real estate guru. This da 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 da. I just want to be Mark that happens to do real estate, right? Like, and I'm trying to like just kind of just refocus that whole thing, man. And so it's been one giant like just kind of rewire and reset and re-establish.
So what I kind of hear you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, could be way off, is that you're at least kind of dipping your toe in the mindfulness of being happy where you're at, not with I'll be happy when I get there. You say I want to be happy with Mark, who's a real estate guy, but I almost curious if you're saying like, I don't want to be Mark the millionaire. I want to be Mark that's happy that he's contributing to his retirement. He's a real estate investor. Like you're really saying you want to be content and feel accomplished where you are, and you're not trying to set you're kind of having the mindset of I'm not if I make $1 million, then I'll feel successful, happy, whatever, fill in the blank. You're kind of trying to refocus on living in the moment and appreciating everything around you as it's occurring. Hard.
Yep. One of the biggest lies I used to tell myself was I was like, when I get my purple belt, then I'll take care of my shoulder. I was like, dude, my right shoulder is fucked. Like it is. This thing is like what's inside of this shoulder, there's nothing in there. It's the muscles around it that are supporting it. Like, and I was explaining to you earlier, right? Like I can't even do a bent over row properly. It's all in my lat because my shoulder has no.
Which starts to cause more problems because it's kind of like a stroke in a way. Like your body starts to
compensate with other parts of the body, and now those muscles are functioning incorrectly, so then they start pulling on other muscles.
Then your back's out of alignment, your hips out of alignment, and then you're like me and you screw your back up loading a bunch of wood. Yeah, sleeping on the floor for 3 months.
I know, man. I know, and it's like, bro, I talked to Lou about it, bro.
For what?
For what?
Yeah.
For what? For what, dude? And dude, it is. God.
Here's the thing: like, if whoever you're dating, or let's say you're married and you have 3 kids, it's kind of. I'm still in this from. I'm not sure who said it, but same context, bigger picture. Like your daughters, your kids are never gonna be like, my dad was a black belt, or my dad, was a special forces. They're gonna be like, yeah, I remember my dad came to when I was 4 years old and played soccer.
Yeah.
Or I remember my dad took us camping. Like,
they don't care
child's
about
minds are so like unblemished, unindoctrinated, they're still just pure. And
they're unimpressed.
if you look at the things that they remember and value, kind of reminds you what is really important. And again, like they might be like, man, maybe by their teenage years, like, yeah, my dad was a black belt, but they're not going to sit around at Christmas and talk about my dad was a black belt. They're going to be like, yeah, I remember on my 11th birthday, my dad took me camping, or we went to this game. They're gonna memories, not like, not my dad owned 26 properties, like the stuff that we count as important. I feel like a lot of times men specifically, they don't quite get it until they're like 80 years old, and then they're like, we get to see a good many of people who are in their older age, work in the medical field, and you'll have old people that are, sometimes you have to ask them. Sometimes they'll just want to start giving you advice, and I think you have a quote, maybe, "Don't get old." You were telling me about. Don't get old. Maybe you were talking about it on the.
I talked about it on I put it on my story one time. I actually have two quotes for what you're saying.
But yeah, there's the one I would.
One is
I would love for
like,
you to open up on that, but
yeah.
The other thing is just that it seems like for a lot of men they have to be 80 years old before they can go, I wish I had spent more time with my grandchildren, with my daughter, because again, like, not to be sarcastic, there's numbers out there to support that after a certain amount of financial success, like the measurable happiness doesn't go up. So whether you have $10 million in your retirement when you retire, or if your kid still has some student debt, that's negligible in regards to the time you spent with them versus the time you spent at work, or work on the weekends, or on your phone, with their soccer games and stuff. Like, I think the fact that and I'm assuming you too, can even like acknowledge like the trying to live in the here and now, and not measure your success with what the world defines as success. The bank accounts, the colors of your belts, maybe the time you can run a mile in, and just look at when you're 80 years old, what's going to matter. You're onto something there.
Yeah, man, it is, bro. That's why the podcast is called Say It Louder, man. Because I'm mindful of this stuff, and I just wanna. I think if there is something to spread as a message from this, it's that, like, look, man, like, call it what you will, but like, we're filming this episode now. I've got a list of other people that I want to put on like this podcast, but I think any of my friends that I bring on here, they're all gonna be saying the same thing, and it's just like, dude, just fucking enjoy this. Like stop for 1 second and just fucking enjoy this. We're all so consumed in like so much bullshit and so much unnecessary stuff that doesn't matter, and it just gets wasted, man. And that's why, like, the two things I wanted to say was, one is that youth is wasted on the young. Like, that's the principle behind that, is like, if you only knew how valuable your youth is, you'd stop fucking around. You'd stop being so concerned with bullshit. You'd stop worrying about who thinks what of you, how of you, when of you, and you would start living the life that you want to be proud of when you're fucking 80 and you can't do it anymore. When your body finally is like, hey, bro, we need a break. You want to at least be able to reminisce on some good shit. You don't want to reminisce on fucking working an office job for fucking 30 years.
Yeah.
You don't want to reminisce on, banging out a pension that fucking didn't pay you shit and ruined your body and your mental health. Like, you don't want that. Maybe you do. I don't. I know for damn sure I don't. And then the other part of it was like, we were talking about this earlier, like, and I kind of misinterpreted you, but I did mean this though.
It's okay, we're humans.
Like, it's like playing, right? Like going outside and playing, right? Like, it's funny because you referred to it in a different way, but yeah, but it's the same shit, right? But the second thing that I was talking about was like, somebody was like, a patient was telling me, she was like, don't get old. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean, like, don't get old? I can't help it. It's a biological process, right? But what she means is like, dude, don't get old in your life. Don't get old in your ways, right? Like, dude, again, don't fucking waste your youth doing the same old shit, right? Live your life, man. Like, live this life. Solo travel, have these conversations with your friends, fucking try the things you've never tried before, go to places you've never gone before, have those conversations with people, and especially in a relationship where things can become routine and monotonous, mundane all the time, trying to speak Venetian to Martian, fucking spice it up, right? Like, hey, all right, like this isn't working, let's try something different. Let's, because what do we want to do? Do we want to fix this? Do you want to quit now? Fine, whatever. You want to use this as a reason to scapegoat? Cool, fine, call it now. But I'd rather it be that than us get to 80 and be like, fuck, what a waste of time. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like huge, man. And everybody's been saying it. Everybody's saying the same thing, man. Like, whatever the problem is, or whatever the idea is, or whatever the viewpoint is, it's like, don't get caught up on it, man. Like, don't don't let it eat you alive. Don't let it fucking waste you, because you've got so much. Like, this time is finite, and there's so much shit that we can do. You know.
And I want to go back to one thing you said. When I get a purple belt, then I'll take care of my shoulder. I think, you know, no harm, no foul, right? But I think when you unwrap that a little bit, you're literally saying, okay, once I accomplish this milestone, I'll take care of my body. That's kind of a big deal. It's kind of but it's even more of a big deal when you apply that to life and you say, okay, well, once I own 12 doors, I'll, you know, go on vacation with my wife. Or, you know, well, once we get 500,000 in retirement, I'll take the kids on a vacation. Or, once the kids graduate high school, then I can focus on our marriage. You see what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very dangerous, and so much so that even the economy, the organized education system, for example, is taking on the, well, when you graduate, then you can start paying it back. I think that's I don't, I won't get into that. We won't talk about finances right now, but just look at it. You go to school for 4 years. Maybe you don't work a job. You're on the meal plan. You're living in the dorms. Life's good, but the whole time you're building up $40,000-$50,000 of debt each semester, maybe a year, maybe total. And that, the average bachelor degree, the average 4-year student has $40,000. This is old data. $40,000 in debt, and it takes average of 10 years to pay it off. That's kind of the same concept if you're living your life and you're like, okay, once I've finished school, then I'll work on our marriage. Or once the kids graduate high school, then I can work on our marriage. You've been building up that debt. You're behind the ball, and you're getting more behind the ball every time you kind of kick the can down the road to address these more important things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So taking care of yourself is probably more important than accomplishing a purple belt.
Yep.
Because guess what? Human nature is, once you accomplish that purple belt, then you're like, okay, well,
No, I
as
want to
soon
get
as I can
brown.
get to that, what is it, brown belt?
Brown belt,
As soon
yeah.
as I get that brown belt, then I'll go get a sleep study to check on this snoring problem.
Yeah.
And you know,
It's crazy,
if
dude.
you do
Because
that in
it's,
life,
yeah.
before you know it, you're like, okay, let me go metaphorically like get a doctor visit, checkup, and you've got cancer, you've got glaucoma, hypertension, or another metaphor, you got $120,000 in student debt. Now that you're ready to look at it and
Embrace it. Yep. It's insane, man. And I think it's like, what is the trade-off? It's all negotiable. Like, how much do you want to necessarily go in the hole for a certain outcome, right? And, you know, Louis, when I had him on the podcast, like he talked about this. He's like, with your body, that's one debt that you don't control when it's time to cash in.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't get to pick the day you wake up and you're like, fuck, I can't feel my arm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Like I didn't get to pick yesterday waking up and being like, what the fuck did I do to my hamstring that I can't stand up? I can't bend over. And I was like, what is going on? I don't even know what happened. But my hammy's been killing me, dude. And I'm like, fuck, now I gotta look up what I gotta do to take care of my hammy. You know, thank God it's 2023 and we got the fucking world at the entire WebMD at our hands. So I know, you know, I go, all right, look for these symptoms, take care of this, ice it, you know, stretch it, rub it out. I got like, you know, go over the sciatic right there and rub that. But it's like, bro, yeah, you don't, with your body, you don't get to choose that cash in date. And when it cashes in, it's like, yo, by the way, interest was 55%. You know, like it's getting back double, man.
Well, it's parallel with your body, you know, quote unquote deteriorating or just not being at, maybe we've already been in our peak or our prime. You know, people that are 50 years old will say, oh yeah, I was probably my prime till 35, 40. Everybody's got a number, right? But if you take away the numbers and realize like the day you're born, you have one less day left to live.
Yeah.
And your body is, you know, arguably science, you know, 18 to 25, 28, 30. Like
your metabolic peak or whatever.
Your body starts, you know, you start having arthrosis in your vertebrae, your hips, etc. Like there's such a fine parallel between or along with your body deteriorating and like the times deteriorating. And it starts to, you know, I hurt my back and now or sort of hurt my back and additional injuries come a lot quicker after the first one. And it's like the time that goes by, you know, I'm sure you've noticed every year it's like Christmas comes a little bit quicker than the last year.
Yeah.
It seems like when you're little, it took 5 years for Christmas to come. And now I'm 29. It was like, okay, we just had Christmas like we had Christmas like 3 months ago, and Christmas is coming up in a month.
Yeah,
I'm like, I just cleared the snow and it's about to start snowing. Like time goes by quicker.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about it with my mom, right? My mom's like, she's like, yeah, when was the last time I saw you? And I'm like, I was like, it's Thanksgiving, and you were like, yeah, no, she wasn't here last Thanksgiving, and I was like, no, bro, like Thanksgiving when I lived across the street at Rusty Allen 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, and it's but the time just it is like, bro, it is like collaterally impacting. It's just like boom, boom, boom. You know, people, and this is like a thing that I have like a pet peeve with social media. It's like this is one thing that social media makes a joke about, and I'm like, shut the fuck up when I see it. When I see it, I'm like, shut the fuck up. It's like they'll be in June and they'll be like, damn, it's already June, 6 more months till Christmas. I'm like, bro, shut up, dog. Like, no, I don't need the reminder. Yeah. You know, people making jokes like, oh, where did I like the blinking one where he's like, it's like it starts off January 1st, he blinks, and then it wakes up and it's like August 1st. I'm like, dude, I don't need the visual reminder of how fucking fast that time just went by, you know?
And I think we're a little bit ahead, hopefully, of like the normal maturity. No, I'm not saying we're more mature than we should be, but I think we're ahead of the game because
just put us on the pedestal.
I think a lot of times people don't start thinking about this. They might think about it, to think about and to actually, you know, put yourself into the equation. They're two different things. You can be like, yeah, I'm in psychology and nursing school. It's very different than going, you know what, like,
how does this apply?
I can be self-aware and realize that this is what I'm doing and this is what I need to do. And yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, have their career established, have their kids graduate high school, and then they're like, oh, like, okay, now that I'm done doing things, Mr. Fixer, you know, it's time for retirement. And I think that's why probably men more than women, they retire and they're like, what now? You know, I think maybe we should have a female on here to answer this, or I could even, good luck getting Heidi's mom on here to talk. She's a smart lady.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting though to chat with like a mother or a grandmother who their accomplishment is raising the children. You know, when if they retire, they're never really retired. They're still mom, grandma. But when dad retires, we'll say your average dad, you know, he goes to work. He goes to work to be productive, and he comes home. Yeah, he's still a father. He still serves love and nourishing to his children. But when he comes home, he's his productivity's not done, but he goes off to work to be productive. So, like when a
I see
man
what you're
goes to
saying.
retire,
Yeah.
his measurable
Value that he presents.
is is much less if he's not been aware of what we were talking about earlier on.
Right.
If he's only measuring his success by, you know, his bank account numbers, the size of the house, does he have a McLaren? Do his kids make A's? Not the grades aren't important, but
Do his kids
if
have the fucking nice shit?
yeah,
Go to the best school. Have
versus
the
are
best
you looking at,
education.
okay, did I spend quality time with my kids this week or today or this month? Like, I think even just being self-aware enough to realize these are important factors beforehand is going to, or has to put us ahead of people that are just like, oh yeah, you know, social media and the world says, graduate college, high school, go to college, graduate college, you know, get married, don't get married. But if you get married, have kids and get them through school. And like life's all about like,
Yeah. You know, it's interesting is that what you're saying, having awareness of that, right? At this age, how paramount that appears to be. I think what's even crazier is what you're speaking on as traditional views, traditional values, traditional families. This has been preached in religion for thousands of years. And like, who are we to be like, say like we're so profound now that we've like understood this
yeah,
at 29? Like, who, like, you know what I mean? Like, bro, somebody wrote about this like 2,000 years ago. The
yeah,
difference is the way that they're telling it, the way that we're understanding it, the way that we're viewing it. Because if you look at like Christianity will tell you it's a mother and a father, and the father works and the mother cares, and the mother makes the home, and the father comes home. And then in the Bible, I'm sure somewhere it probably says too, like, forget not to like love your children and spend time with your children and show them affection, because those are the things to remember, not how hard you worked or what you did.
yeah. It reads like, tend your own flock before you try to, I'm going to mess it up, but it's tend your own flock.
I don't even know, but yeah, like, right, it probably is in there. It probably is in there. And it's like, so is religion the answer? I don't fucking know. Is fucking spirituality the answer? I don't fucking know. But I am glad that, one, I'm starting to get it. Two, that there's other people who get it. And like, in that I know there's accountability. In that I know, like, you know, for whatever freak fucking circumstances may happen, like, if I was to just like get smited or checked out of this world unexpectedly, that my efforts would not die in vain. Right? There's at least one other person that could like pick up the torch from this and be like, all right, cool, like, this is what he was trying to do. This is the message he was trying to spread. Like, I can keep this going. You know, I'm finding more solace and more solitude and like understanding that, like, man, I spent a lot of time by myself. I spent a lot of time like working on this and understanding this and being in my own echo chamber, kind of ostracizing my thoughts from the rest of the world, and to come back into the world and to see like, hey man, all this
Community.
time that we've been apart, it's the same, like, we're still in the same fucking idea, same fucking path. You know, we're reading two different sources of knowledge, drinking from two different rivers, but we're getting the same insight, the same knowledge, the same value. We both drink the same water, right? Like, it comes from the same glacier. What is that glacier? Life. I don't know. Am I getting deep here? Like, have I been like, Have I been fucking like prophesized now? Like I don't
the
fucking
curtains
know,
open up when you
like,
said all that.
ah, right? You know,
You need a
like,
little like switch over here to like brighten the lights up.
just bring the light up. Like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, but it feels good to like to fucking understand that. I wish that I could share that with other people, you know, but fucking some people will listen, some people find out the hard way, you know? And I think in that lies the beauty of life. It's just the people who listen, the people who have learned, the people who are willing to learn, the people who didn't listen and then wind up learning. Like, fuck it, dude. We'll all meet up at the same point. Like, life is keeps going, man, you know? And shit, like, you'll be fucking 40 one day and I'll be 40 one day. My sister will be fucking 33 at that time, and
Hopefully not in the Navy anymore. Maybe
you know, like I hope she's out, man, but she's talking about getting out. Because I mean the military is its own beast, bro. That's its own. But I also too don't even want to like. I think that one's nixed. The military has got to be nixed from all podcast conversation moving forward.
It's hard to have one to not talk about negative.
Yeah.
And I think it seems to be the trend of say it louder is like
all
positivity.
Guess, yeah. Or yeah. I see what you're saying.
I mean, you'll discuss like negativity, but it to not talk about it. But it's hard to like have a conversation about the military and sit here and be positive for an hour.
Yeah, it is hard, man. It is hard.
Articulate. They use a verbal pause.
Right.
But it's not a verbal pause. It's a verbal like.
It's
like,
yeah.
Like,
the likes become periods.
Like, and you know, like it's like
yeah.
You know, like what I'm.
Stop, bro.
You know what I mean?
Yes, bro. Yes. You know what's one thing that I have been trying really fucking hard to do when you're talking, when whoever is talking, to not go yeah, 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 Like I just sit there and go. If you try, I may have not noticed it, but when you watch the recording back, I notice it. I'm just like sitting here like.
Well, if the video too, but if it's strictly like a what do you call it? Spotify, what do they call those? When people are just talking, podcast, like without the video, like, or even just if you're on the phone. I mean, it's different. If you're giving verbal cues, like. I think you do need to give verbal cues or like actually make a noise, like maybe not every sentence, but like occasionally like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of like checking in, like you're validating and kind of like, even if you did space out, at least the person doesn't know you spaced out. You're like,
today we call that, it's going, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's not a new concept from you. You were doing that back in the J-Bear, back in the ER days.
I've been doing that since I was a kid, bro. I've been telling people, damn, that's crazy for the longest because
it's funny, once you said that, I started going back. I'm like, I've heard him say that to me a lot. I'm like, well, maybe this guy just doesn't value what I have to say. I do talk off the wall a lot. You can ask Heidi. I'll just be like, literally, sometimes we're driving. I'll like read sign names. I think she just doesn't hear me anymore, but I'll be like, I play a pretty mean like mouth trumpet.
Please do not do that right now. Do not do that right now. There's some things.
You can ask Heidi. I've got a lot of great noises. Animals, instruments, car noises. The wind. Yeah, I got her.
Yeah. Dude,
Sirens.
You're a fucking character, bro.
I'm gonna go ahead and proclaim it. I'm gonna be really good at reading little like bedtime stories to the kids. Because like your average adult's like the cow's like moo. I want to be like the cow's like. My kids are gonna be like at school like my daddy makes the best cow noises.
God dang, dude, bro, stop. It's true though, man. You're a character, bro. You're a character. You play it well. You got a good one going, man. I like you. I like hanging out with you, bro. I miss hanging out with you, man. I wish we hung out more.
So, the best time to start was yesterday, but the next best time is right now.
Is right now.
Or today.
Goddamn right, man.
Never you want to say it.
Yeah, all right, man. All right, bro. Here it is, man. We've gone through this hour-long discussion on life, speaking Venetian, speaking Martian, reaching enlightenment, what is that? What does that even mean? I don't know what it fucking means. Maybe that's up for the viewer to interpret, man. We've gone over the theories and all this crazy shit, man.
Science.
I've broke down how I try to make podcasting a lot less daunting, less scary.
Yeah.
But from you, man, this is the big one, man, because the two people that are going to watch this episode the most is you and me. I've watched every episode I recorded several times, editing it, and then again to give the view count on YouTube. Now I watch it again. I'm like, I'm picking pieces up, dude.
Yeah.
Picking out pieces the whole time. Yeah, my brain. I'm like, my brain is sexy. Your brain's sexy, man. You got sexy brain on you, man.
Thank you, Mark.
But yeah, man. So knowing that you're watching it, I'm watching it. 10 years from now, we're gonna be watching it. What do you want to tell? What do you want to tell future you, future me, that we should be aware of? That we should remember. Think deep. Get profound on it.
Well, not to draw out your podcast, but isn't it kind of interesting? Like we're sending a message to our future self. Doesn't it be nice if we could turn it around?
Ooh.
Seriously, because we're telling we're recording something to tell ourselves in the future. Anyway, without getting into time travel, I would probably say
break the fourth wall, dude.
Understand that life can only be lived forward. Only be lived moving forward, but only understood looking backwards. But it's what you do with that, trying to live every day to its fullest. And that's a way easier said than done. But it's actually, live your day so that when you lay down your head at night, you're like, you don't have to contribute to society. You don't have to have taken care of a lot of patients or help the old lady cross the road or cut the grass, but you contributed to like memories, relationships, and quality time, with the people you care about, or even just quality time with yourself and improving yourself and being still and being quiet in the ever evolving and faster moving everyday world that we live in. It's hard. It's hard to turn your phone off or to sit down or like, it's been 10 minutes. Well, I'll just check Facebook Marketplace or let me see what the weather is or, well, I'll turn some music on. Like, set in your silence. Have some quiet time with people you love. Live in the moment. That's what I got.
Man, that's fucking profound, bro. I think you like that book, The Algebra of Happiness. It's literally like everything you just said. Yeah, it's deep, man. It is. It's hard, bro. It's
I guess
hard,
you get
man.
a different opportunity every time you podcast to give your future self a message, right?
I mean, I haven't really, but yeah. I think my future message to myself is the podcast.
The whole thing,
man. The whole way through.
Stopping to smell the roses, in essence, instead of just like plowing through every day and looking back and be like, what was it for?
Yeah. Just, as vain as it may sound, it's like you were right all along. You were right. Don't doubt yourself. Stop doubting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. Mm-hmm. We are our own greatest critics, bro. It's fucking hard. Like you said, man, we try and fucking mute that out, however it may be, but sit with your silence. It's deep. It's hard to do, but we should do it. There's a science for that. It's called shadow work.
Yeah.